Well, welcome back to A Dog's Devotion, the podcast where we celebrate the life changing bond between dogs and the people who love them. As many of you know, this show is inspired by my own rescue dog, Max, who truly saved my life. Since then, it has become my mission to share stories, knowledge, and inspiration that help strengthen the relationship between humans and their dogs. Today's guest is someone who has built an incredible reputation in the dog training world. His name is Tom Davis, and I'm so proud to have him here. He's got a super busy schedule, but he's taken the time to meet with us. He has worked with thousands of dogs, and he's also the founder of No Bad Dogs. So that leads me to think that if there's no bad dogs, there's bad trainers, but we'll talk about that later. From family pets to extremely challenging behavioral cases, through his training programs, online courses, educational content, special liver treats he's designed to support positive training, he has helped dog owners all over the world better understand their dogs. His message is powerful. Dogs aren't the problem, communication is. And when we learn to communicate with our dogs properly, everything changes. So, Tom, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, you do this for a living. So, I mean, I'm talking to a pro here with your show and your traveling and everything that you've done. And there's so many things I want to touch base on. But I'd like to start at the beginning. You're either a dog lover, I think, or you're not. I was born a dog lover, but that doesn't mean I'm a dog trainer. So, what first inspired your passion for working with dogs?
When I went to school, I went to college for like a semester, not long. And I remember just sitting there, and I'll never forget. I was just looking around, seeing everyone else, taking notes, and just actively studying what the professor was saying. I was like, you know what? This is scary to me. I don't know if I like this because now I'm going to be in a situation where my life is planned out, you
Yeah.
know? And that was scary to me. And I didn't, and this was, I don't know, this is a long time ago. So I then was like, what do I love doing? What do I know that I love that I would love waking up and doing every day? And that was working with dogs. And at the time I was in my early 20s. And so I didn't know what to do, so I just started a dog walking company. And that's what really kind of laddered me up to then becoming a trainer. And so in the beginning, it was just this scary part of being locked into a job that I really knew I wasn't going to be passionate about. And then trying to figure out a way to do what I am passionate about. And at the time, when I was in my early 20s, I was like, well, it'd be great if I could just walk dogs for some money and pick up poop. And that's how it started.
But how did you amass such a following?
I don't know. I think staying consistent and helping people. I mean, that's what I've it's just what I've always done. I didn't, when I post stuff on social media, because now there's, all these different platforms, and
Right.
it's just been putting out stuff to help a dog owner, one at a time. And that's for me always been the goal, is to just continue to try to help people. And I think that naturally people are going to gravitate towards helpful information. And that's always what I've been doing. That's just always my strategy.
Right. Well, it's working.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, it is. Your brand is called No Bad Dogs. What does that philosophy really mean?
Yeah. Well, I think you said it in your intro. And as a trainer, I just got kind of sick of saying, you're the problem.
Uh-huh.
And dogs have just, when the people come in and they say, hey, my dog's acting like a jerk, or my dog's doing this or doing that, I always have to explain to them that there's a reason why these things are happening. And a lot of times it's because of the owner. So that's how my brand started. Is I honestly I wanted a brand that can represent the dog's point of view and to kind of advocate for them in a way. And so I just like blasted No Bad Dogs on a t-shirt, on hoodies, long time ago, well before anything was really established. And it was just a statement piece, really, like walking around with that big No Bad Dogs on my hoodie. And people always like, oh, I love that. I love that. Like everywhere I go, people really gravitated towards that. They appreciated it. They understood it. Like it's an immediate like conversation starter where everyone's like, oh, that's so true. It's so true. And so it kind of just became a big part of my, I have a couple different brands, but that's like a big part of it.
Yeah. A lot of my listeners have rescue dogs, including myself. My last 4 dogs have been rescue dogs. Do rescue dogs, because we don't know their history, do they require different training or more patience? Is there something that we should know or keep in mind when it comes to training a rescue dog?
Some of them do, but honestly, like the rescue dogs are typically like the best dogs. Some of them have, I think, not knowing their history and potential trauma that they've gone through,
Yeah.
then it can create more work and you have to go slower a lot of times. But I think that it's case by case. I mean, if you get a dog and they have had trauma in the past or lack of socialization or whatever, there's always going to be that slow burn or slower burn than a but you could also get a rescue dog that is bomb proof. Like they don't care about
Right.
anything. And even if they went through traumatic experiences, they're just stable enough to bounce back. And that's really it's a lottery. You never really know. I mean, you can have 5 different dogs go through the same traumatic experiences, and maybe 3 of them are going to be shy, insecure, timid, and maybe even reactive, and then the others are just going to be like, "Yeah, whatever. What's up? My name's Roscoe.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you." So it really is a crapshoot. So I never really, I always just work with the dog that's in front of me for the most part. I mean, unless I'm getting in a beagle that I know are going to act a certain way or
Yeah.
something like that, I really just look at the dog in front of me and not focus too much on the breed when I'm training.
Do you advise people, because we're not all dog trainers. I mean, I love my dog to death. I spoil him rotten. And right now I've got a little Yorkie who's as stubborn as hell. He doesn't like to walk. I try, but I'm not a trainer. Do you suggest that people get a trainer for a short period of time just to get the basics sort of covered?
I always say that putting your dog in training is the equivalent to telling a person, like asking a person if they should go do some exercise. It's like, yeah,
Okay.
it's always going to be good. You know,
Right.
if you bring a dog into training, I think, and that's part of the problem. And I actually recently put out a podcast on that. Is so many people wait for the problems to start happening before they think or consider training. That shouldn't be the case. You should get a dog and say, "Hey, I want to create," because a lot of dog training is creating a better bond through communication and understanding, and your relationship gets better, your communication gets better, the trust gets better. So even if you don't have problems, then you can still start develop really good communication, really good relationship. And so that's what I always tell people is don't wait for there to be problems. Don't wait for your dog to get strong to start pulling you down the road. You should
Mhm.
start training immediately so you can be proactive instead of reactive because it makes my job and other dog trainers' jobs much easier. You know
Right.
the old saying of you can't teach a dog new tricks. The reality is you can. It just takes a lot longer because now we're getting rid of habits that have been formed for years. So people are
Right.
like, I just talked to somebody. They said, "Hey, we don't want the dog sleeping on the bed anymore. We want the dog sleeping on the floor, and the dog's now barking at us all night." And I said, "Well, if you thought about that in the beginning, this
Yes.
none of this would happen again."
Right.
So no bad dogs, and also just don't wait. Just start that again. It's the same thing as like, should I eat clean and exercise? It's like,
Or should
yeah,
I not do
yeah,
it and see what
yeah,
happens?
yeah.
Right. Okay. Do you have 3 things that you could give our listeners that they should focus on when it comes to training their dogs?
Yeah, I think the first thing is finding the dog's motivation. Genetics definitely play a role, and it doesn't matter if you have a super mutt or you have a purebred. The dog's genetics are going to be a really good insight into what they probably like to do. Terriers are likely going to want to chase stuff. Labs are going to retrieve stuff. Most dogs like food. So that's the first thing I do is I say, "Hey, what do you like?" to a dog, and that's always a good way to break the ice. And it's always just a good thing for people to know. Like my dog loves playing tug, or my dog loves treats, or my dog whatever. And so once you can start developing that and you can get a dog to start working for motivation, then you can turn training really fun really quickly. Um, so that would be like my first step that, I always tell people to start off with. And then after that would be boundaries and thresholds are a really good way to create a happier, more stable, calmer dog. A lot of dogs go through life without any boundaries. They just do what they want when they want. So they rush out of doors, they rush out of car doors, they rush out of crates, they rush out of anything really. They have there's no filter, there's no gatekeeping. It's just they do what they want when they want. And the problem with that is, say with your dog, for an example, a small Yorkie who isn't going to be knocking anybody over or whatever, right? So the problem is behaviorally, the dog has no boundaries and thresholds, which then the reason why we do boundaries and thresholds is because, yes, we don't want the dog to knock us over when we're going out the door, but it also teaches patience. It teaches respect. It teaches, it just teaches the dog that they should be asking for permission to do stuff. Not in a sense of like, hey, can I be a dog? Of course you can be a dog, but it's the same thing with kids. When we get it's basic manners, please and thank you. We don't
Right.
want, if we put a leash on you, we don't want to go for a ride. So I think thresholds and boundaries, it's like it's the lowest hanging fruit you can do to better your relationship with your dog. Put a leash on a dog, go towards a door, you open it, their natural instinct is see ya, we're out of here.
Yeah.
Use your leash to stop them. Just say, nope, open the door, pay him. Yeah, you did it. You didn't run out. And then when you say break or release or free or whatever word you want to command, the dog goes, oh, now we can go. So you just have this thresholds. And so the dog goes, I need to ask for permission from you in order to, and it's like, yeah, cool. So, and then I think the third thing that a lot of people don't, it would be a command that I always tell people to do, which is a break or a free command, which you've just referenced. A lot of people, when they teach their dog heel or recall or go to your bed or something like that, if you don't have a break or a release command for your dog, it becomes a very gray area.
What do you mean a break
Break
or
is a word that you would say to say, okay, now you can now you're done doing this. So like, let's say for an example, we teach a dog how to heel. So I go out with my dog and I say heel. The heel is the dog walking at her heels on a loose leash. Now, anytime we tell an animal to heel, unless again you have a Yorkie or a really small dog, we are actively telling them to walk in slow motion. They have 4 legs, we have 2. So when you tell a dog to heel, that means I don't want to be pulled. I don't want to be dragged. I don't want you to
right?
go all over the place because that
Yeah.
becomes a chore. Many people who have dogs who pull on the leash don't really like walking their dogs. And then, of course, behavior gets worse. The
Mhm.
dog becomes restless and more active, more holes in the yard, more barking, etc. And so the break command is essentially releasing the dog from work at that time. It's like recess. And so whenever I teach, let's say you bring in a 8-week-old puppy, a 6-month-old puppy, whatever, we teach the dog when I say heel, you walk right here. And then when I say break, you can release yourself and sniff and be a dog and do whatever you want. So having that binary difference, like if I tell my dog, go to your bed, they go to their bed and they sit there and sometimes they'll fall asleep, but other times they're like, hey, can I get out yet? And so those are
No,
those
really?
thresholds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we just say break. So let's say a friend comes over and my dogs are, everyone has the dogs that kind of freak
They're all
could,
excited.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're jumping, they're excited. Maybe people are afraid of dogs. I have 200 pounds of dogs always in my house. And so it's a lot. And so I'll just tell my dog, go to your bed. Boom. They run to their beds. They sit down and they just look at me and they're waiting for the release command. And then once I say break, bang, they're off their beds and they're back to being dogs. So it's important to have those basic boundaries to say, here's what I want you to do. These are skill sets that we should teach dogs, whether it's down, place, leave it, come back, heel. These are all basic skill sets that every dog should know that we can apply in reality that will make our lives tremendously better.
Right.
And then once we tell them to do these things, we need to have a release command, which is what most people forget. So that would be just off the top of my head, something that people should really work on.
Okay, interesting. So the other thing I wanted to know is, you use one word commands, and I don't know how many times I've gone for a walk or I've gone to the park with my dog, and I hear people like talking to their dogs, but from what I understand a one word command, sit or come or
Uh-huh.
play, as opposed to some people, I don't know, spew out a huge conversation with their dog. And I don't think the dog really understands what the hell's going on. I think it's better if you use one word. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think dogs are animals, and so we wanna give them cues hey, so again, like when we teach a dog heel, we teach a dog sit, we teach a dog down, we teach a dog recall. There's 2 things, it's kind of a twofold, excuse me, that we wanna just say, "Dog sit." And what a lot of dog owners do, anybody who's listening to this probably does this, is they repeat themselves. So they say, "Sit, sit, sit, sit." So
Yeah.
we kinda like we machine gun our commands. And so 2 things happen. And again, I primarily focus on behavior. So I help a lot of people with behavioral issues with their dogs, reactivity, aggression, anxiety, fear. And most of that stems from relationships with owners. And so I always tell people to try to be proactive. Don't You want to ask your dog to do a behavior, and then if they don't do it, you enforce it, right? So you say sit, they say no, I don't want to. There's a squirrel. Then you'd use your leash to, hey, come on, pay attention, right? So we'd
Okay.
enforce it, we'd correct it, we give pressure, however you want to, whatever you want to say. But once we just say, hey, sit, the dog goes, yeah, hold on, sit. Yeah, wait 1 sec. Wait, sit. Wait 1 sec. The dog then learns it's completely okay to sit maybe the fourth time, the fifth time. So not only does your relationship start to fault because now the dog knows that you're not serious, you're not going to hold them accountable. They have zero respect for you. They start blowing you off, but it's extremely dangerous. So when we say, dog, come, they go, yeah, 4 more recalls and maybe I'll think about it. That's an issue.
Right.
When I ask my dog, and it's really preference, it's very discretionary and subjective. Like when I ask my dog to do something, I want them to do it. So if I have 2 young boys, humans, and I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and if if I'm carrying in the groceries and my little one's behind me, because he's 1 and he's little, and then there goes my mastiff who's 170 pounds that wants to barge to the door, I want to say down. I want him to down right there at that exact moment. This isn't down, down, down. If I had the same control or lack thereof that most dog owners, 90% of dog owners, my kid would be flying across the room or in the
Yes.
yard, right? So when I ask my dogs to do a behavior, and it's the same thing I work with, all of my clients, is the reason why your dog is stressed and fearful and insecure is because they don't trust you. Why? Because when you tell them to do something, they don't really have to do it. A, because the worst case scenario is you're just going to repeat it 7 more times. So now you have a dog that won't listen to you or trust you, and it's awful. It's like
Yeah.
one of the big one of the best ways to ruin your relationship with your dog really quick is make them feel like you don't mean anything that you say.
Got it. Do treats help? I know you've got liver treats that you've come up with. Does that help getting a dog to listen to you if he does what you tell him to do and give him a treat? Does that help?
Yeah, for sure. I think, I always tell people that the treats are the icing on the cake. They're the
Yeah.
cherry on top. They shouldn't be necessarily the reason why the dog is doing the behavior. It's just nice when they know, like we call that positive reinforcement. So a lot of people don't know that in dog training and animal behavior, positive is adding something, negative is taking away. A lot of people think positive and negative is treats and negative is yelling when that's not what it is at all. You can use negative punishment, you can use positive punishment. There's a lot of different variances there, and it's kind of complex. But when you yeah, when you ask a dog to sit and they do, and you give them a piece of beef liver, they're like, oh, that was great. But the next time I ask you to sit, it's probably not going to come out because I don't want to be dependent on food. And again, most people are dependent on food, so dogs don't, a lot of times, like this is a good test for anybody, and this is kind of funny sometimes, where if you go up to a dog and you don't do anything with your arms, you just stay neutral, you stay normal, and you say sit, there's a good chance that they won't sit. And then if you go and reach for your treat and hold your treat up in the air and you say sit, they will sit. So that means that your dog doesn't know the word sit at all. Your dog knows that the cue for sitting is holding a piece of food up in the air. So
Got it.
it's not applicable. It has zero utility in the real world. The dog doesn't know the behavior, and you need external food in order for your dog to listen to you. And that's not good. When you go out into the real world, you want your dog. I call myself like a lifestyle trainer because I want people to be able to go out and get coffee with a friend, put their dog into a down, have a cup of coffee, get up, and then walk away without any issues. Most people can't do that. And it's because of those reasons. Their dog actually, they don't know the behaviors. They've just been, it's kind of a facade. And then when they go out into real world and they say, hey, pay attention to me, their training is predicated off of only positive reinforcement and motivation. And so the dog has learned to chase and pay attention to the things that they're motivated by because we've treated them so much. So when
Right.
they see a squirrel, rabbit, chipmunk, deer, snake, koala bear, wherever you live, they're like, I want that instead. And that becomes a real issue.
Right. It sounds like a lot of this dog training is actually about training a human as well.
Most of it is, honestly,
Yeah.
like, and I think unless you're getting into competitive sports with dogs,
Mhm.
which is very, very small granule things, most of dog training in general for behavioral stuff is people. Because for a dog trainer, the dog should be trained in under an hour, like completely. Okay, I get it. I get all these things. Got it. I'm going to behave, all that stuff. Dog trainers don't go home with the clients. So it's really important. It's just like physical training. Hey, Tom, you've gotten 100 other people into the best shape of their life. They look great. I want that. And then I would say, okay, great, we can do that. But all of the success is going to be predicated off of you. I'm going to teach you, here's how to lift these weights, here's how to run properly, here's good form, here's your diet. Go home for the next 6 months and work on it, and you'll see results. But if you don't, we'll start over. So it is absolutely about, and again, no bad dogs, continuing to go back to this no bad dogs thing.
Right.
Very, very rarely, I would say one out of 50 behavioral dogs I work with is because of the dog. And that's only because it'll be like a neurological type of issue with the dog where they, there's something going on at birth. But every other dog is going to be because the owners allowed them to do that at some point.
Right. Can I ask you a personal question about my little Smokey?
Sure.
Since, I mean, I've had him for a couple months. I don't know his history. He's between 5 and 7 years old. And I walk him 3 times a day. I know he's got to get up in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. I take him out. I understand that. But for some reason, that dog still wants to pee in the house. And I don't know why. I put pee pads down. I don't want to get too mad at him. I certainly don't want to hit my dog. I don't think that's right. But how do I get my dog? And I'm sure so many people that are listening to this deal with the same thing. To like he'll stand right in front of me and lift up his leg and pee on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. Potty. Yeah. So potty.
I mean, like, I'm at my wit's end.
Yeah. Potty training an adult dog is difficult for many reasons, likely because the dog, you got to understand, like, if the dog was allowed to pee in a home
Mhm.
live outside, and they've never held their bladder, never needed to, they just like it. Think about a little baby, like my 1 year old who
Yeah.
wears diapers. He doesn't think about holding anything. He just goes when he needs to go. There is none of that. None of that training happened. There's no potty training happening. And so the dog doesn't realize that it's wrong. And so therefore, of course, they're going to do it. My recommendation, the only way that I have been successful sustainably with an adult dog who has been allowed to go potty indoors, has been a crate rotation. And so what that does is it puts the dog into an area in which they typically don't like to go potty on themselves. They don't like to go pee and poop on themselves. And you would then treat the dog like an 8-week-old puppy that you just brought home. You would say, when you come out of the crate, you go outside and I reward you like crazy. Yay, you did it. Good job. And then when you come back inside, we are monitoring the dog. Personally, for me, I put the dog in like little X pens so they don't have freedom.
Yeah.
Because once you give a dog who's not potty trained freedom, you don't know when they make a mistake to catch it. And B, you don't know how many mistakes are actually happening. And so that becomes problematic for many reasons. So I really just treat it like an 8-week-old puppy that I have. You have to limit their freedom because they will make mistakes, and you have to manage every aspect of their day in order for them to really capture that going in is bad and going outside is good. And that comes down to also water and a food schedule. So if the dog has access to water and they're gulping water up all day, and
Yeah.
you're not letting the dog out often, when you're potty training, I let the dog out 4 to 5 times an hour just to make sure that I'm successful. And I'm walking.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have a dog that has never held their bladder at all ever. So when your dog drinks a cup of water, within 30 minutes, they're going to pee. Like, done. So you have to make sure the dog just drank. We have to go outside, and I don't let the dog back in until they pee something. And a lot of times, especially because a lot of people, it's tough when you don't work from home. I luckily do work from home. So I'll either put the dog in a little area where I can watch them, or I'll put him back in the crate and I'll just rotate and I'll let him out, 40 times a day. And I'll do that for about a week, just so the dog knows that when I let you out, you go outside. And when you're peeing outside, I'm rewarding like crazy and throwing a party. And then when you go inside, I have a puppy training video on my YouTube channel, and I have on video where I've caught my puppy actually peeing, and I pick him up real quick and I rush him outside, and I, kind of scare him and jar him, and, try to
Yeah.
let him know that they don't want to do that. And that's how you do it. You basically just start over from puppy training.
Oh, oh my God, it sounds like so much work.
It is. It is. It is. I mean, puppy training is the first training you do with really any dog. And
Yeah.
luckily, I have trained all of my dogs within a week using that system, the exact system.
Wow.
Yep. I crate.
That's amazing.
It's called a crate and rotate. So, and puppies sleep all day anyway. So they don't care. It's not like they're like, hey, I want to get out. No, they're sleeping. So
Yeah.
that's the only problem with like an adult dog is they're not sleeping as much. So for me that's it doesn't take more than a week for me to train a puppy that just with that schedule. So every time you let them out of the crate, they're outside. They're going potty, they're getting a party. They come back inside, they're either enclosed or they're back into their crate, and I'm monitoring the water intake.
Right.
Like
Okay.
if I have like right now, if I had a puppy, I would remove all the water until so let's say it's 1 o'clock. It's like, okay, I'm going to give the puppy water at 1 o'clock. I don't have a call or I don't have to do anything until 3, which means I can let the dog out 5 times until then, until they release all their bladder. But
Right.
if I have a call at 1 and I give the dog a cup of water and I have a call from 1 to 2, that dog is urinating in that time frame 100%. And
Right.
that's the management that you'll have to do.
Right. Okay. Well, you gave me some homework.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's just like humans too, like you just have to manage like, oh, I don't want to drink this whole jug of water getting on the plane, so I'm gonna have to pee, every 5 minutes.
So true.
It's like
So
okay,
true.
so it's literally the same exact thing. You just have to do that for your own dog. If your dog is not potty trained and you give him all a bunch of water and you just leave him alone, he's gonna have tons of accidents. You have to manage
Right.
every aspect until they get it.
Okay. Got it. Thank you for that. I think that's super helpful. A couple of things I want to talk to you about. It. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but you were just on you were on Good Morning America.
Yeah, yeah, we
How was that? How did that happen? That's amazing.
Good, yeah. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I do morning shows a lot actually. So it's a lot of times they call me and they say, "Hey, we need an expert for this." And
Yeah.
I just have become a go-to expert in the morning show circuit. So Today Show, GMA, Fox and Friends, etc. It's just been like I'm like I think all the producers kind of have like, hey, if we have dog questions, we call Tom in, and
Right.
so that's kind of how it goes. And then sometimes too, like the last appearance we did on GMA, that was like a company paid for a time buy actually. So it
Huh?
was like a company wants their product in GMA and then they would hire me to they're like, "Hey, you're on TV a lot. People know you. We're going to hire you to be on set for us."
Promote their product.
Exactly. So they pay me for the day and then they, pay for the travel and all that stuff. So it's a pretty fun gig to be honest.
You know what? I worked in TV for a long time. I was a TV anchor in Canada for almost 20 years. So I know, and I did the morning show, and it's such a grind because you have to get up so early. And oh my God,
Yeah.
it was always so fun to have fun guests on. Morning shows are different because you can have interesting guests and do things like, bring you on and have dogs and,
Yeah.
and I think you should be very proud of yourself that you've gotten that name
Thank
because
you.
it takes a long time to build that reputation. So good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super grateful for it. It's always fun. We at one point in time we did like I think we did like 2 morning shows a month for like almost a year. We were just like
Wow.
going down to New York, doing Today and doing GMA and doing all these different things, and it was just so hot, and so it's fun. And it's fun. You get to bring the family and share the green room with Martha
Yeah.
Stewart and different celebrities, and it's yeah, it's fun.
It's
It's
a
a fun.
different vibe in the morning, right? Like, it's just a little more casual than the
Yeah,
evening, I always
yeah.
found.
Yeah, and a lot of the morning shows are usually reporting on really fun stuff, happy
Yeah,
stuff, and all the
yeah.
anchors are great. I got to work with Hoda and Today a lot, and Craig Melvin and Carson Daly, which I was a huge fan of growing up
Mhm.
watching TRL, and so getting to be on set with them, and getting to know them is as a dog trainer, that's something not many, if any, get to do in
Yeah.
the dog space, so it's pretty cool.
No, that's why I say big congratulations to you. That's a big deal, and
Thank
I
you.
know that coming from TV. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, because he's been in the news and I watched him fight, the big Tyson fight, and, I can't help but watch this dude because he's over the top, but you worked with Logan Paul.
Yeah, yeah, I've been working with Logan for many years actually. I helped him out in California when he lived in California, I guess,
Yeah.
in Calabasas, and so I go out there and work with him when he got a Tibetan Mastiff, and that was insane. It was like at the peak of his vlogging days, and so it was an insane environment. I learned a lot. I worked at his house like for like a week, which was really cool. And then over the years, we've just stayed in contact. And he has another dog, so I've worked with his other dog. He's got an XL bully that I've worked with. He has a couple different homes in Puerto Rico and
Yeah.
here in New York. And so yeah, it's been cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And the other one that so surprised me was Brother Christopher in the monastery out by along the border of Vermont.
Yeah.
I thought that was super cool, and I loved your interview with him sitting outside, and here's his brother. I thought he'd be in, the whole thing, but he had jeans on and a plaid shirt, and he was a dog trainer, and you met him. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. That was like one of the first podcasts we've done
Yeah,
in person. I think that was like 6 or 7 years ago. He doesn't do Brother Christopher, for those of you who don't know, is a monk, and he practices out of the Monks of Newsgate, close to me in New York. And when I reached out, I said, "Can I?" Because a lot of people that I knew that knew him were like, he's not gonna let you film him.
right.
You might be able to do like an audio with him." And they ended up emailing me and said, "Hey, he's committed to it. He'll do it." And it was cool. I got to sit down with him, and I mean, yeah, he's a monk that actually does they raise and train German shepherds and do dog training. And yeah, we were outside at the monastery on a beautiful day and birds were chirping, and it was cool. Yeah, another cool thing, like fringe benefit I get to do because of my career, is meet really cool, fascinating people as well.
You do. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank
Well,
you.
congratulations on everything that you've done, all your successes, continued success with this. I love the brand No Bad Dogs. I think that's amazing and all your merch that you sell. So I just wanted to thank you for joining me today and informing myself and listeners, about training our dogs and
Yeah,
how important it is.
yeah, yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And, just so that, I can say what I really loved about today's conversation is the reminder that dogs are always communicating with us. We just have to learn how to listen.
That's right.
And the work that you, Tom, do is, well, through No Bad Dogs, is helping people see their dogs differently, not as problems to fix, but as companions to understand. Because when we take the time to learn how our dogs think, how they feel, and how they experience the world, something truly incredible happens. The relationship deepens, which I think is true, and the trust grows, which also is true. And suddenly, that dog that once seemed difficult becomes the dog that changes your life. So, Tom, thank you for the work you're doing to keep dogs in homes, strengthen the bond between humans and dogs, and remind the world that sometimes the biggest transformation happens when we change ourselves. And so, to everyone listening, hug your dog a little tighter tonight because the more we understand them, the more we realize how much they give us. Tom, thank you for everything you do, for your talks, for your shows on the morning shows and all your training tools and your liver treats and everything else. And can we just say you're on Instagram, YouTube,
On Instagram, it's just at Tom Davis, and on
at Tom
YouTube, it's Tom Davis Dog Training, and the podcast is called the No Bad Dogs Podcast.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time to join me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, have a great day.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.